Hi, it's Jel.
And I'm Ray.
And let's go cruising.
Woo!
You and I love to go cruising, so we just wanted to we always said we just need someone recording our conversations whenever we were in the car.
Yeah, we make people laugh, including ourselves, but that's just us.
And we just talk about everything. Like, we talk about literally everything. Like,
Yeah.
to true crime, we talk about, like, Bigfoot, Squatch.
Yeah,
Sasquatch. Just personal stuff. Who doesn't have those conversations? So we were just thinking, we should have people come cruising with us.
Yeah.
So we're both from Denver. We live in Denver, Colorado, and we love to see Denver, obviously, because everyone is moving here.
Yeah, but we've really seen the whole state. We've been to a couple other states too, but
we literally go cruising everywhere.
Yeah, especially when COVID hit. That's when it started.
Yeah, COVID inspired a lot of cruising, and we just love it. Like, we don't go anywhere. We just cruise and just talk.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to bring you guys along, and if you like it, cool.
Yeah. Hopefully you like it, and want to.
Or one of your commutes, if you want to just hear something.
Here's some gossip about historical stuff or true crimey stuff or ghosts, whatever be the case.
So, proper introduction, I guess. My name is Angelica, and I am a dog groomer. I love all the puppies. I love animals. But and then this is my bestie.
Yep, I'm Rachel, and I am a dog trainer, and I love animals too, but as far as dog training, I'm gonna leave it at that. So you try to pick my brain, I am not on the clock right now. I'll talk about it. We'll talk about what we do in future episodes, but give us a minute, okay? Because woof.
But, dogs aren't the only thing we talk about, so today, actually, we were going to talk about some historical true crime-y.
Yeah.
And Rachel's going to do it because I am a space cadet from moving, so.
Yeah.
It's been a long week.
I think everybody knows when you're moving, that shit is tiring. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. That shit is tiring.
My fur babies are so stressed.
Yep, and that's the thing I will add. Just not your dogs and cats will get stressed. All your pets will get stressed when they just see things going out of order.
My mini farm is not happy right now. I have 2 dogs, 2 guinea pigs, a lizard. I used to have a fishy, but you don't have a fishy anymore. But so she's gonna talk to us today. I'm excited. I honestly don't know what you have.
Yeah, bitch, you can actually sit back and relax.
I am excited.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so excited. I love true crime.
Now, some of y'all might have heard of her. I definitely had not heard of her prior to this, but she was really interesting to learn about. So I kind of thought this was good timing to research her and to talk about her and stuff. So, we're going to talk about Leonarda. I cannot even pronounce her last name, honestly.
What is it?
It's that.
Here. Like I know.
It's Italian, so I'm sorry if there's anybody from Italy or with really intense Italian roots. Don't let your fury come out.
Is that a C?
Yeah.
Is that a C?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna just go for it. Cianciulli.
I was thinking more like Cianciulli or something like that.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't either. Okay.
We're sorry. We don't know.
I'm so
We're
sorry.
Trying. Don't judge us, please.
Well, Leonarda, she's also known though as the Italian Sweeney Todd. So, and I found a couple different resources on her, and they're all about the same, but my favorite one, you can find this chick on YouTube, and I think I'm gonna watch more about her because she was pretty awesome. Her name is Stephanie Harlow, and actually one of our favorite podcast people from Morbid.
Shout out to Morbid.
Yeah, Morbid. I love you. They've mentioned this chick before too, so she's pretty awesome. But she
the makeup artist one?
I don't think no,
that's
not her.
One.
No.
I love her too. Shout out. I just can't remember her name, but I like you too.
But this chick, I mean, at first when I heard about her, if anybody knows of her, I got mad, you know, because basically she's also known as, aside from the Italian Sweeney Todd, the soap maker of Correggio.
Oh.
I might be pronouncing that wrong too. I'm so sorry. Or Correggio, one of those two. So,
we know Spanish, not Italian.
Exactly. So, according to Wikipedia, she's just a serial killer and cannibal. She has a criminal charge of 3 murders, who were all women, and she had a criminal penalty of 33 years of detention.
Fun fact,
Yeah, fun fact. There's like a composer.
Hey, somebody didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a novelist, a Venetian school composer that's from there, so it's a nice little town, and it's pretty densely populated, but this bitch, I'm sorry, it's in my notes, this bitch turned the bodies into soap and tea cakes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ew, soap.
Yeah, she used like a...
It's like skin.
Ew.
Skin on skin. Ew.
Yeah. It's more than that, girl.
Ew.
Like, she used like a caustic soda, which is like used in sodium salts, detergents, and soaps for pH regulation. So I'll get more into that, how she even came up with even doing this shit.
What the hell?
Later on. This is probably going to be 2 parts. I'm just telling y'all now. And it might not be. We'll see.
We're probably going to have a lot of those, so if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
Just, you don't have to listen. Like, that's all it is.
Yeah,
if you don't like it, then don't listen.
We're going to do it anyway. It's just
Exactly. Because I can go over more about Leonarda herself, so I will briefly, but then I'm going to get more into it about her freaking mom. Because when I first read Wikipedia and, like, saw this at first, I'm like, clearly I was writing this bitch. Like,
Yeah.
like, okay, how dare you kill these women? In the end, I'm not saying ever what she did was wrong, or what she did was right, but... yeah, she.
It's like, it kind of goes into like the whole debate of like Ash and Elena even bring it up, like the nature versus nurture. Like, sometimes it's just, they get brought up and, you know, they have it rough, but it doesn't justify what they did.
Yeah, like by all means.
It's still sad, you know, for somebody to go through something like that, but that doesn't mean it makes it okay.
Exactly. So, she herself was born in Montella, and what was then part of a kingdom in Italy, or of Italy. But it was a huge production center of chestnuts. So a lot of people know that place, about the Montella Chestnut Festival. They hold that like each fall in Avellino. This chick, she's obviously gone through a lot of trauma in her life, to the point where she's attempted suicide twice in her youth.
This is Leonarda?
Yeah, this is Leonarda. So this is just some brief stuff. So things were definitely up and down for a little bit, which eventually would lead up to the murders. So
Okay.
more so with Stephanie, so what she was referring to. So watching her podcast, or not her podcast, her YouTube, she started off with the mother, Emilia Denolfi. And this chick was born in a southern Italian town, Montella, and it's known for, like, also, again, those chestnuts. So she came from, like, a really good, wealthy-ass family. So she had that high social status, and, yeah, and she herself was gorgeous. So she had suitors obviously lined up, just ready to court her and just be prepared to marry her.
Mira, okay.
Sí, mira. So yes, we're both Latina, by the way. So the thing is, though, with all these suitors and with high class, especially back then, maybe even now, it should be like that today as far as priorities, women, or whoever you are, they had to be highly educated first, as did the women. So the women, since as far as like the men goes, women didn't have to learn things like math and science and stuff like that, because back then,
lucky, I would love that.
know, right? And back then they didn't have to know that per se. So
Yeah.
So they were more educated in other things. So they had to know how to paint with oil and acrylic.
Yeah, Yeah,
Yep.
that always was a...
They did learn many languages, and they had to learn how to play a couple, if not several, instruments.
What year was this on?
This was like, for the mother anyways,
Yeah.
in like the 1850s, give or take.
Okay, so...
Maybe a little earlier.
Because I had a visual in like the 1700s, and I'm like, that's too far back. I know we're not that far.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So,
1850s. Got
so
it. Okay.
this chick was, basically brought up to understand life as being like, okay, so I learned how to do all this stuff. Things are done for me as far as, needing to take care of myself. So cooking, cleaning, how to take care of somebody else if need be. All this was done for her, as any rich socialite will have. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, she's going to parties, she's meeting with these suitors, but she's basically waiting and saving herself for a guy so she can get married and start another lavish life on her own. That's ideally what these wealthy people back then were brought up to just expect in life. And I'm stressing on that now because it bites her in the ass later on. Now, she wasn't a bougie ass, wannabe. I can't really drop the name, but you probably know who I'm talking about because I refer to you as them all the time. But
Hey, come on, just...
I mean, at the end of the day, she wasn't some bougie bitch. Like, she was nice. She just happened to be gorgeous.
You were.
Yeah. So one day, she was walking home from a party, and she was being watched.
Ooh.
Like
from a creeper?
Yeah.
Oh.
And this creeper happened to be one of the town drunks, basically.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Mariano Cianciulli. He was unemployed and poor, and possibly I could not figure out his age, and neither could Stephanie. But he was possibly much older.
He's just a drunken
creepy,
nobody.
yeah. And he always wasted his time drinking. He was lazy. He was just cruel, like a rude, ill-mannered guy.
Well, if you didn't have anything and all you did was drink, you'd be angry too.
Yep. So, it did actually, I did find it out in my notes. I just didn't go back and erase. He was born in 1854.
Oh.
But Emilia was maybe 16 or 19 at the time, so that would make Mariano like 40.
Ew.
So he, like all the other guys, saw that she was gorgeous, but he was also resentful because of her social status. And a man of his class and background would never be considered just an option. Like, he wouldn't be looked at. He just didn't like the idea of that. So he's probably some narcissistic bastard on top of it.
Ego.
So he essentially stalked her, and while he was doing this, he was also drinking a cheap bottle of wine, according to sources. But he grabbed her, he pulled her into the field, and he raped her. Now, she thought it was a prank at first, and then a robbery as she felt his hand going up her skirt.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Oh.
this was the old times, too, so she had no idea what sex or rape was. That wasn't something that was taught. Like, they didn't go over
That's
that.
still scary.
Oh,
just
hell
having
yeah.
somebody touch you.
Oh, hell yeah. So after it was all done, after he finished, she just laid for hours in pain, and by that point, he left. So she still couldn't understand what happened, just that it hurt. That's all she knew.
What the hell?
Yeah. And again, she's like 16, 19 years old and has no idea what this is. Like, it's terrible. And it's like that in other cultures too, where it's like sex is so shameful, we're just not going to talk about it. In other religions.
You don't even know what you're doing.
Yeah.
What it is. What's
going
going on. Or like how some of those poor girls, like, I can't even imagine having like your period during that time for the first time, and you're like,
well,
oh my God, it's like you'd freak out, like, and
kinda,
no one talks about it.
Well,
so.
kind of like in Bridgerton, they were associating like, okay, your sheets are stained once a month, so you're good, but when your sheets aren't stained, a baby usually ends up coming. So that's how they were able to cycle it. They didn't have apps. They didn't have calendars to put stickers on, you know? Like, they didn't have that.
Carved a notch in their wall.
Yeah, really. Oh, God. That uterus is like a little mini prison in there. Like,
It's scraping against you.
Jesus.
That's why it bleeds.
Yeah. And of course, like, we're strong women. Like, we can bleed for 7 days and not die. You know? We just feel like we want to.
But poor girl.
Yeah. So, so she was so shocked and just tased and confused, and she walked home and just fell into her bed. Like, just clothes and everything, just fell into bed. So when she woke up the next morning, she eventually realized what happened after linking the pain and the blood on her inner thighs. So immediately she felt shame, because she was also like in a raised Catholic, like heavy Catholic.
Oh man.
Yep. So she told nobody. And she still saw this this poop stain. She still saw this freaking amoeba of feces out and about, living his pathetic life. So this poor girl is still trying to live her life and move on and just hide what happened, but she still sees her rapist out and about in town.
That is terrible. He is a poop stain.
Yeah. So, going back to Bridgerton, the household staff noticed that she had not gotten her period, and they went and told her mom.
Oh, shit.
So her parents confronted her about it. Dad threatened to knock on every door of who she entertained.
Oh, of course, during that time, it's gonna be her fault.
Oh, 100%.
Just awful.
Yeah, it's awful even in this time. Like, that's clearly something that's carried over, just different situations.
She didn't ask for that.
No!
That ass wipe.
Oh, she ended up telling the truth. They didn't call the police or beat up Mariano.
Did they even believe her?
They invited him and his family over for dinner.
What?
Yeah. They invited them over for dinner. They didn't want to destroy their reputation. So the adults made the decision for her. She had no say, because she was still a quote-unquote child.
What the hell?
Yeah, so everybody literally had a say except her. Mariana was happy as hell. Yep.
Oh, they put out greasy meat hooks all over her. It's disgusting.
Girl, this was the best possible outcome for this scrotum flea. Like, ew. So messed up. He raped her out of spite and jealousy and was basically rewarded on a silver platter. Well, yeah, they had a hasty private little wedding, and then she moved in with Mariano in the poorest part of Montella. So she went
punished for her rape.
Yeah.
God.
Literally. So she went from this lavish Bridgerton-like lifestyle to now living in a small shack with no furniture and
with greasy meat hooks.
And the bathroom was outside by those meat hooks and shared with other people who donated the meat hooks. So Mariano still had no job or plans to even get one. And most likely continue to force himself on her. I read in other sources, like other little articles and stuff, that like the first night he basically did force himself on her again and again.
She's just forever being raped.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yep. And she considered herself an embarrassment. What she was raised to know, which was to be married to a wealthy suitor, did not pertain to what she had to know now. And that was to be a housewife and a mother.
Man.
So she went from the socialite role to now suddenly the servant role, in a sense. The peasant role. So she had, and that's what I meant by she had servants for everything, and now she just had
no idea what she's doing.
And she just had to learn to do it all. And the worst part, Mariano viciously beat her when she couldn't be a wife right away.
Of course he did. What else does he do?
He'd go drinking all night, and sometimes
what doesn't he do?
Not come home for days.
Freaking piece of shit.
Yeah, he doesn't come home for days. So she literally now had no support system. And of course, her rich friends and family wanted nothing to do with her. She was just a cautionary tale at that point. Basically see, when you get pregnant, you become her, Emilia.
Oh my God.
That's what happens when you just go off and sleep with people.
But she didn't.
I know. Yep. That's how freaking rumors spread, and nobody even knows the real truth. Nobody ever said the real truth. Everybody just came up with their own shit.
The sad fact that how you said she didn't know what sex was, and she didn't know any of that. Now this is what she knows about.
It's just been taken.
It's just.
This was not even Loredana, Leonarda yet. Loredana, Jesus.
This is her mother.
Yes, this is her mother.
Oh my gosh.
So why.
That trauma is deep rooted into.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, her family wrote her off, because now that she's married, she's her husband's problem now. Yeah, I wrote what you were gonna say right there.
That's exactly what I thought.
So, yes, it's clear that from her traumatic life after that rape, her heart grew harder and colder as the months went on. Because now, on top of having a baby she didn't want or plan for yet, she had to learn how to be a mom in the blink of an eye without actually being taught.
And the fact that, not that, she's a bad mother or anything, but the fact that her first baby is associated with this rapist asshole. That'd be hard to, want to accept it. That's
now, what's even harder, though, is that, again, she had to learn how to be a mom overnight. How to feed, how to change, how to love, how to give affection to a baby. Because again, all of these things...
She doesn't know any of that.
No, because they were done for her.
Wow, not even from her parents.
Not really.
No, obviously, they just tossed her out.
Yeah.
And gave her to Mariano.
And all Emilia knew in life was, you're going to be a grand woman of a grand house, you're going to marry a rich man, and everything will be perfect.
Nope.
That's what she was raised to believe. She got pregnant, and everyone was telling her, this baby will ruin your life. This is the end of the perfect life. That was painted for you. So in her mind, pregnant plus treated awful equals baby's fault.
Shit.
So poor Leonarda is now born into this family. Leonarda was growing up. Mind you, she's a toddler right now. She was verbally abusive to her, constantly criticized her, gave her zero love, no acceptance, and constantly reminded Leonarda that she's the reason her life sucks.
Wow.
That everything Leonarda did was wrong. She was constantly abused, criticized.
Took it all out on her kid.
Controlled by all around her. And, well, more so, Emilia. She was the one who was constantly abused and criticized and just controlled by everything. And now she had a powerless child that she could do the same thing to.
Yeah.
She had no control, and she can control this. So, yeah, it was easy to abuse kids back then because they're, quote-unquote, supposed to obey you.
Yeah. Well, and no one talks about what happens behind closed doors anyway.
Yeah, and she can't lash out at her husband. He'd probably kill her, have her imprisoned, honestly. So, Leonarda was literally a product of her environment. Psychologically, at least in my therapy, I am not a therapist, they both came and just were brought up from learned behaviors.
Yeah.
So Mariano still had no job, so they moved from shack to shack. Leonarda was only 2 at this point.
Jesus.
Yeah. So let's see. Since they were so broke, they lived off the charity of the church, basically. And whenever Mariano did get money or borrow money from people, he spent it on booze or whatever else.
Of course he did.
Yep, did not even care for his family.
Okay.
Now, Mariano didn't come home after a few days, no surprise. But a few more days passed, and she started asking around town for him at this point.
Uh-oh.
She found him actually fighting off a fever, and he was in a deep coma at a buddy's house. They're all just drinking, having a grand old time, and he's just literally laying in a bed, just basically dying.
Did he, you think he had alcohol poisoning?
That, or maybe some type of build-up from all the drinking he'd done, like some type of cancer.
Either way, he screwed himself.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah.
Which wasn't a surprise.
Or maybe he got cut and got a fever from it.
Ugh.
Yeah. So he eventually did die, and Leonarda has no real memory of him. The only memory of him that she really has is she remembers her mom spitting on the pile of fresh dirt covering his casket.
Huh.
I don't blame her. So, by all means. So, Amelia's friends and family still acted like she never existed. She was still chasing her childhood dream of the luxury life she should have had. She wanted to remarry, but she had too much baggage. She was a poor widow with a child.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially back then, the hell, nobody's going to be trying to date that.
Yeah. Well, not that she has her status anyway. Like, her name is
Exactly.
tainted, so,
Exactly.
like, no one's gonna want her anyway.
Exactly.
So, unfortunately, that's sad. I mean, but that's what happens.
Yeah. Not to everybody, but it sadly happened to her. So, at that point, she started to date criminals. Since high society men didn't want her as a wife, but it was... the criminals were most likely involved in, like, organized crimes. So, like, kind of...
like gangsters. Like,
Yeah.
who had money and they were just, like mobsters. And
Exactly.
shit. Like, oh.
Exactly. And some of these guys spent their money as quickly as it came.
Mm-hmm.
So, Amelia ended up remarrying one of them. He showered her with gifts, money, and clothes.
And that's
Her.
all she wanted.
Yeah, and he spent that money nonstop. Leonarda, though,
She's greedy.
she was just an afterthought for both her mom and stepdad. So she was still abused. And she was left with no dinner, just scraps, sometimes.
Because
Whoa.
Amelia got greedy.
Well, mom and dad went out at night dancing to restaurants, partying. She was only 5 or 6.
She just upped and did.
Yeah. Kind of like Matilda. There's fish sticks in the microwave. Jesus. So, poor Leonarda pretty much took care of herself. And these are the years a child needs her mother the most.
Yeah.
Like, she needs to be nurtured.
She's
Like,
just a baby.
yeah. Like, I can't even imagine, you know, like a little 5-year-old, you know, tripping, starting to cry, and just looking around for its mom.
Starving, crying.
She's starving for attention, and literally starving, probably.
Yeah.
So, her first suicide attempt was at 13 years old. Because she was so neglected. She just wanted to be loved. And she tried to hang herself with her bed sheets, and then she fell. She fell so hard that she couldn't speak for a week, because she crushed her larynx.
What was she trying to hang from?
The ceiling, basically.
Oh.
Yeah, some beams that were up there.
And she fell from that height.
Yep. And she ended up, like, bruising her body pretty good from, like, basically falling on herself. And her mom didn't even notice. According to her own biography, which I'll mention later on, her own mother didn't even notice that she couldn't talk or that she had bruises on her neck and her body.
With no concern with, like...
No. Didn't mention it.
Shoot, at that point, she should just run away.
Right?
Get away from that.
But she was kept at home all the time. She didn't even have friends.
She didn't even know what the outside world was.
No, she was probably left home alone. I doubt somebody was even watching her.
That's so sad.
Yeah. And if she was watched, who knows by who? Like,
Ew,
yeah.
And...
So, her second suicide was less than a year later. She tried to hang herself again. And she was just in a constant state of agony and sadness and depression. So, the only time at that point, and she was obviously unsuccessful, but the only time at that point, Amelia started finally paying attention to Leonarda, because then she noticed she was becoming a beautiful adult, like she used to be.
What a bitch. Oh, what a... Oh.
She more so had it in her head, from what I was able to basically conjure up, like she was trying to use Leonarda to chase her messed up dream, just for her benefit.
It's just living vicariously in
Yeah.
her, so she's gonna try to make her marry someone rich.
She dressed herself back up to get Leonarda back on the market. so she could just basically benefit off of the riches.
Wow.
Yeah. So Leonarda did have suitors, but Emilia was having too much fun being high society again. She was respected again, finally. She was able to kind of rekindle her name a little bit. So Leonarda did want to marry just to escape her life, but she fell in love with a simple and kind older guy, Rafael Panzari. He was a low-paid government clerk, so not high society at all, but he was hardworking and responsible, and he treated Leonarda with respect. So she told her bitch mom she was getting married, and the pissworm was livid. So, mostly because she was trying to find a rich husband for her this whole time.
Quote unquote.
But she never actually told her that she was trying to find her a husband. She just paraded her around like a poodle.
Yeah.
She never told her what she was doing with her.
She was just using her.
She would just tell her, like...
For show.
Yeah, she'd be like, just get dressed, and we're just gonna go. She didn't tell her where they were going or nothing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you gotta take your dog to the vet, especially. Like, alright, they just know we're going somewhere. They don't know where they're going, though, or what you're doing. So she literally paraded her like a poodle, yeah. So she said she was gonna marry him anyways. So the BITCUNT put a curse on her. Her own daughter. You will live a miserable life until the day you die.
Jesus.
Those were the last words to her daughter. She never spoke to her again after that. Didn't go to the wedding, and if she saw her in public, she acted like a stranger.
Wow.
Her own mother.
Because she couldn't use her anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. The thing with Leonarda, though, especially being brought up with the Catholic religion, there were Romani people, which are basically like gypsies, that were constantly around. But
Esmeraldas.
yeah. But they, obviously, as we know from Hunchback, they were looked at very negatively.
Yeah.
So that was basically illegal back in that time to even be part of the Romanis. Or to practice what they practice. So she believed in curses. So this obviously freaked her the hell out. So she was always paranoid about this. To the end of her life.
Wow.
But Rafael was a good man. But he'd struggled to understand why she'd freak out if she, like, burnt dinner. She always felt like she had to be perfect. Or, like, why she was constantly feeling that way.
She was self-sabotaging herself with that idea?
So, no, more so it's from what I understand. Because in my personal life, I had that trauma, and you saw that trauma after I left my ex-husband. Oh. I kept looking over my shoulder all the time. I kept, like, messing up and apologizing a lot. So she anticipated, basically. Back then, they didn't know about anxiety, and like they weren't really understanding of that. And yeah, so
exactly what it was.
But he was always good to her. So she continued to criticize herself.
I'm so glad that
I know.
Like she had that at least, but
now he did notice amongst these anxieties that she was afraid of a lot. And those anxieties led to medical issues, like seizures. So she always constantly just considered herself a failure. She couldn't sleep at night because her mind was just constantly racing.
Insomnia.
She just wanted to be a perfect wife.
Damn.
But to a T, though. So immediately...
Which doesn't exist.
No, really. Like, depending on who you are.
Perfect anything doesn't exist. No one's ever perfect.
No. But, like, for example, like, I know Roland's not perfect, per se, but for me, he's perfect.
And she probably was for Raphael.
But she had it to a farther degree in her mind because of her dad's abuse, essentially, too.
Ugh.
So, again, passed down behaviors. That's how she was brought up to learn that. So...
That's so sad.
Yeah. And so she, after getting married, did immediately want kids. She wanted a big family. Because she just wanted to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
So if she had kids, they would automatically love her, you would think.
Yeah.
So that was just definitely a sign of trauma. So when people do kind of like get married right away and then they try to have kids, or they try to have kids like as soon as they just get together, not even getting married, that could be signs of trauma or things that you know because it's been passed down in your family.
Wow. Wow. That's on a freaking deep ass level.
And all she just wanted was love. So she knew she would get
that's so
guaranteed
sad.
love from
Just
a child.
The fact that they think, like, just that trauma makes you think that far ahead.
Oh, it gets worse.
Wow.
This poor bitch. This isn't even the tip of the iceberg. So, she did hear eventually that there were Romani fortune tellers that were coming towards the village. So she told they told her, she told them right away that her mom cursed her when she did go and try to get her fortunes. Because she didn't want them to freak out if they, like, looked at her palm and were like, what the hell? Like, so she would give them fair warning. Like, I did have a curse put on me, so what can you tell me? How can you help me?
Yeah.
So she asked if she was gonna die. Said she wouldn't die for a long time, but she'd live a life of sadness and outlive her children.
Wow.
She freaked the hell out. She freaked out. So 3 years after she got married, she did finally get pregnant. Sadly, even though she should be overjoyed, her anxiety skyrocketed. So that triggered more seizures, caused her to fall and hurt herself.
She miscarried.
3 months later. Yep. So that made her anxiety worse since it confirmed the curse and the fortune. So her health was so bad that she'd stay in bed sometimes in fear of having another seizure and just falling down. So Raphael was working steadily and doing everything he possibly could to help her. So in doing so, he could only make so much money. They needed backup in a sense. Mm-hmm. So they eventually moved back to Raphael's hometown of Loraya in 1921. So
in the roaring 20s now.
Yeah. So Raphael, he made more money and they got a nice little house and she finally got pregnant again. So it's easier this time and the pregnancy went a lot better because she had love and support and stability from his family on top of having him. Not that she didn't have him before, but she was by herself. He was working and she just sat there and riddled with her own negative thoughts. And if anybody knows, like, I'm sure everybody knows about anxiety, but you can drown in that and it can just eat you up.
Yeah,
especially after our mind blow a couple weeks ago.
It ruins you.
It eats you up literally from the inside.
Ruined.
So the anxiety at this point was almost gone. And in 1922, her first son Giuseppe was finally born. Now, she started becoming obsessed with being the perfect wife and now mother.
Oh, no.
She adored her baby, absolutely adored him. He was a symbol of hope and new beginnings. Unfortunately, having a baby in general just brought back her anxiety. And it's no one's fault. Like, she was learning to be a mom. Being a mom is a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Like, you were constantly thinking about your baby, having to feed them, the routines.
Well, the fact that she's putting him on a pedestal, she's going to be overprotective of him, and she's going to act a little cuckoo with that.
So, I'll get more into that one. But in the end, keep in mind, she didn't know how to care for a baby either. So she did her best. She did great. She was trying to be the best mom she could be. Nobody gave her that, though. Yeah. So, of course, that just adds to the anxiety of, am I doing it the right way? Am I even doing good? Like, and again, she's used to all these thoughts at this point. So, all she wanted to do was protect him at all costs. So, at this point, she became a helicopter mom, at his need 24/7. He was fussing, she's right there. She would watch him sleep to make sure his breathing didn't stop.
Oh my God.
She would worry, thinking he had a fatal illness if he just had a little fever.
Oh, jeez.
So, the constant worrying brought back her seizures.
But the smothering is not healthy for him either.
No. And she was concerned for the future, and Raphael at this point is not making as much anymore because now they have one more mouth to feed.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy.
What does he do again?
He kind of works with like the government, but it's like low-end jobs. It doesn't really say specifically what he does.
Like, I'm gonna just relate it to like temp jobs.
I'm thinking like more government type of jobs, but like maybe not anything too important, but well like, respected
obviously
enough.
It's like enough money to get him steady, but not.
Yeah, he was a low-paid government clerk.
Oh, clerk.
Yeah. So maybe like
Okay.
a what you would say cashier or like
Yeah.
teller nowadays somewhere.
Okay.
Since he wasn't making much more, ironically, she thought more babies would stop the anxiety. So if she had one more healthy baby, she could have more. So no, more so. If she had already one healthy baby, then maybe more will come from that. And over a dozen years, she tried 16 more times.
Oh my God.
And she had tons of miscarriages. But, well, maybe not tons, but she gave birth to 14. 10 of the kids died very young.
Oh my God.
7
kids.
7 died before they were 3.
Oh my God. So much dead babies. Terrible.
Jesus. I'm not laughing. I'm laughing at how she said it.
That's awful.
That's amongst all the other traumas she's already had. This is even worse. And so I couldn't even imagine, dude. I remember taking these notes and I was like, Jesus Christ. That's where I was like, and what did you do? That was so bad.
And Giuseppe is the only, and so she's gonna just
Giuseppe, yeah, right now.
More clinging on him because he's the only one surviving.
He's her favorite.
He's the only one?
Well.
Oh my God, that's so many
Yeah,
gone.
that could be traumatic for any mother, especially when you want children. You want the big family, and you're losing every one of them. So clearly it was easy for her to believe that she was forever cursed. It just kept confirming her anxiety. So it was devastating her physically and mentally. Her seizures were now worse than ever before. So a few of her kids basically got sick and died. It was 2 girls and a boy. So one of the girls was born with bad lungs. So she literally went from a small cough to just extended coughing spells. Like whooping coughs. And Leonarda was constantly there caring for her child like a mother should. Singing to her, stroking her hair. And sadly, she still passed.
Damn.
And then...
Oh my God.
The boy, he developed a random unexplainable rash. Nobody could understand why. And he just died one night in his crib with no explanation. Was put to sleep and he died.
What if that was an allergic reaction and he
It could have been.
his little lungs or your throat closes up and...
It could have been. This was maybe 1920, a little bit after 1922, I think.
That's terrible.
Yeah. So at this point, Leonarda became a hardcore helicopter mom. And who could blame her? I don't. She's paralyzed with grief and fear. So Giuseppe, like we said earlier, was the first and favorite. He was the miracle baby. So she would literally refuse to let him play outside with other kids. And
That's not good.
no, she kept him from being social, basically.
Yeah.
And so she was constantly paranoid about the smallest things. Bumps, bruises, scratches. Things like that sent her into panic attacks.
Oh my God.
A little scrape of the knee, you just wipe your knees and you just go off and play.
Well, one of them died because of the rash.
A cough! I can't blame her, no, but
that's still
not okay keeping him, So
terrible.
Raphael and his family, they would try to help her. They just didn't really understand how.
It's hard to help somebody who's always just on a constant fear and anxiety. When they get in that deepest state, you can't help them in a sense.
You don't know how.
It's sad. You can't get them out of those anxieties.
And especially back then, they didn't understand it either.
No.
They're okay, well...
They probably thought she was crazy.
Now, they obviously knew she was stricken with so much just grief and trauma. But again, you can only do so much to help somebody, especially back then. So they worried mostly because she literally never left her kids aside. Mm-hmm. So they were even okay, you need to just chill. But they obviously can't just say that. You can't just say that to somebody having panic attacks.
And that's what makes it so hard.
Now, she did eventually get a job. They did eventually convince her. So Raphael, he got her a job because he's well known in the community. He's well respected because of his job, even though he doesn't get paid a lot. But they know he's a hard worker. So they're like, okay, we'll work with you, you know, like a reference. So he got her an overnight cleaning job at the village bank. You know, nothing too intense. I think my mom's done that actually before. And the cleaning. Housekeeping. Literally, she does that now. So, and respect. That is a hard job to do.
Is.
That is very hard. My poor mother. So, you tip your freaking maids, by the way. You tip them. You go and stay at hotels. Don't just leave a chocolate bar. You tip them money.
And your groomers.
And your groomers, yes. Jesus. Anyway. So
she got this cleaning job.
Yeah, and it was good because she would put the kids to sleep, he would be home, and this was actually perfect for her because it worked for her schedule. She didn't have to deal with people because she was obviously introverted. She didn't know how to socialize.
Yeah.
She liked learning about different chemicals, like for cleaning and how and what to mix for new formulas.
Oh no. Foreshadow.
And it did help her anxiety a little too, because she got to clean. And with anxiety, it is good to clean because you're controlling something. You're giving yourself a job to do, or whatever it may be. So it's still, even though she had a second job, she still didn't make enough money. So as a couple in the household, they were still pretty broke.
Damn.
The worst possible thing could have happened though. Her 10th child died in his sleep while she was at work.
Oh no. No, that's gonna, oh no.
She was finally convinced.
No.
She was finally easing her mind a little bit. Finally getting a routine going.
Wow, she's gonna think she can't go now. Like,
Raphael could barely bring himself, him and his family could barely really even bring themselves to go to the bank and tell her when this happened.
Oh my god.
Because they couldn't call her up, you know? They couldn't be like, hey, they can send a text.
And the fact of like how much grief she's had, I'm sure they're also like, I don't want to tell her.
And I mean, them too, but she was raised with grief and trauma on top of that, and negligence. So,
oh my god.
So, she obviously crumbled. She obviously reacted as she should. But she felt like now she wanted to move to the countryside. She just wanted to get away from the negative thoughts and just the constant associations of looking everywhere and seeing, like, my child died there. Or my child, you know, died in this house. Like, my other child now. Like, that's going to add to the paranoia. And more fresh air in the countryside would be less disease compared to, like, a city. Especially back then, you know, you're not breathing in everyone's hacks. So,
smallpox.
Yes. So, to do this, remember, she worked at a bank. She was just the overnight cleaning. She made a fake bank account while she was working there.
Oh, shit.
And she added a hefty amount of money. So, when she went to withdraw it all nonchalant, they were like, really, bitch? Like, you thought you were gonna just walk out of here with some money? So she was arrested and charged with fraud and sentenced to 1.5 years in prison.
Oh, shit.
That was 1927. Now keep in mind, again, this is 1927, so there's not a lot of female criminals in Italy back then. So you can't send them to prison with other men and mix them up, obviously, because especially back then, you got gangsters, mobsters, other killers in prison, rapists that had been caught. You throw some women in there, that's meat in a lion's den.
Ew.
Like, they will rip them apart.
Hasn't it always been separated?
Yeah.
But still.
But again, it wasn't common for women to go to prison. Hence why it's always been segregated. So where she went instead, she was basically sent to a nunnery. Now,
sorry.
With all
I'm not
due...
laughing because that's terrible.
Yes, and with all due respect, I'm not even going to say it. They ended up controlling her every waking moment.
Not that we're saying, like, nuns are evil all the time, but some of them are just jacked up.
Yeah, some of them are just... I don't know how to respectively say it. Some of them are just too much. They take their role a little too seriously, you know?
Yeah.
So, obviously, there was a mother superior there, like, controlling everything. But I mean, hey, y'all, I love Sister Act. That is one of my movies. Like, I love Sister Act 100%. But I love the sound of music. Like, nuns can be cool, you know? But kind of like priests, you have your evil priests.
It was in the history book.
Yes. So, point being.
Anyway, she got sent to the nunnery.
Now,
Shite.
this is so the worst. If the women fought back or tried to argue or were being difficult, the nuns just added years to their sentence.
Oh my God.
Now, luckily, she was raised, mind you, with abuse and just constantly being told what to do and being criticized.
It's a walk of park.
Exactly.
Let's just get this over with.
So she had no issues. So, because she was used to it, she literally just kept her head down, did what she was told. She was no problem. So she served her 18 months, breezed right through it. Everything was fine. Sadly, while she was in prison, Raphael lost his job.
Oh, crap.
After her little stunt, yeah, they let him go.
Oh, shit.
Remember, he was the one who referred her.
Yeah. Oh, God.
He was the reference. So this is why, guys, if your friends are referring you to work with them, don't screw them over. Like, it makes them look bad and it taints your friendship.
Yeah.
So, his family was embarrassed even by what she did because they're associated with them.
Well, to them, it was probably like a stab in the back.
Essentially.
So.
And all she wanted was money to move. I get that, but that doesn't make it right. So, you got your sentence. But, again, because of that, what she thinks is a small mistake, everyone else is like, you really messed up, and now we look bad because we're associated with you. So thank you. Like, you're messing up our reputation. Back then, they didn't have social media. They had reputations. That's how they knew, and like they talked about each other, like, oh, did you hear about so-and-so and the Vanderbilts and, you know, how they do this, and, well, the Rogelio's over here, like, you know, stuff like that. So the community, I mean, the family still loved them. They did, but they were like, you probably gotta just stay over there. So the community in general, though, yeah, they shunned the whole family. They didn't want them really part of the town, including the kids.
That was,
she done messed up.
That was just dumb.
Now, even though the family was at arm's length with them, they still got some money together and helped them move. They were like, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta go. So, they went to Lacedonia. And Raphael got a good job. And it was enough for Leonarda to stay home to helicopter her kids again. But they were able to get a precious little house that overlooked the Osento River. So the kids were able to play outside under watchful eye of the mother.
So how many kids does she have?
That's a good question. It was honestly kind of hard to keep track. That are alive? That are alive? I think 4.
Okay, so just Giuseppe and then 3 other kids.
I think she has 3 boys and 1 daughter.
Okay. And
she had 17, but she lost
God.
them. Yeah.
So many kids.
Being in the countryside, being able to go outside, watch her kids play, this started to ease her anxiety a lot more. She was doing her morning routines, getting up, you know, kind of self-caring a little bit. Do your self-care. Give yourself a structured routine, I'm telling you. I need to get back on that, I'm just saying. But she still is paranoid in the back of her mind. And she's constantly thought about that curse. Now she got pregnant again. She went to see the Romani people again. And there was some set up by her home in the woods this time. So she was told when she went to see them. And apparently this fortune teller was very gifted. So this is mostly why she wanted to go and see them. So she told her.
And her milky eye like you.
Yeah. Yeah. If you guys can't see me yet, but like I have this swirly eye. Not really. They're caca brown. But I've called shit out in the future before, so we call it my milky eye.
She sees it, she'll call it out.
Yeah, I'll call it out, man. So, either way, the fortune teller told her, in one hand, she could see prison, and in the other hand, she could see a mental asylum.
Oh, shit. What the... options? Oh, my God.
And it scared her shitless.
I would be too, like, that's it?
Yeah, in both places, you're never seen or heard from again. At least in prison, you know you're being held, but asylums, you don't really know what happens to you. You just know people who don't want you or that are weird.
That's all she said. And
that's all she said.
And then Leonarda ran away screaming.
Well,
jeez. She
ended up giving birth to a healthy baby boy. She was suspicious just of that. Just the fact that, okay, you're healthy.
God, that self-sabotage mentality of just being
Can you blame her, though?
Scared.
It's that constant...
Oh my God.
It's also... There's a word for it. I don't know what it's called, but it's when you're afraid of being happy. Because something happens when you get happy.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they think anyways.
Yeah, that is a real thing. It's very...
Yeah.
I've firsthand seen that on people.
I have felt
terrible.
that. I have felt that before.
That's awful.
I don't have it, but I've felt that.
Damn.
So I get it, and that's got to do with trauma.
Yeah.
That's really just all it is. So go to a therapist. Don't be one of those people like, I don't need that. No, you need it. But I don't even know you. You need it. So
you are getting therapy. You are getting therapy.
Yes.
You are getting therapy.
Yes.
I love that one.
So this poor bitch, again, just had a life of anxiety and paranoia. But she still loved him. She still cared for him like a mother. This time, at arm's length. She didn't want to get too close. She was already anticipating death.
Damn.
Yeah. And it's kind of similar in the times of the Black Plague when people did have children. They kind of felt the same way. They wouldn't get attached in anticipation of death.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, this is not a hamster. This is your child.
My God.
Yeah. Like, you should care for your hamster.
You should still love your hamster.
Yeah, I'm just saying, though. Like,
oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah. So, obviously,
Poor kid.
the seizures now came back.
And then he's going to start feeling like the black sheep.
Yeah, because she was too scared to hold her son.
And then, of course, she got her seizures back.
She didn't want to drop him while having seizures.
Wow.
So she had a reason.
I mean, those are legitimate reasons, but it's still like...
It's sad.
The effect it had on him, I'm sure, the black sheep.
And her mental health continued to decline.
Oh my God.
So every night after Raphael got home, she'd put the kids to bed and then just go on a walk. She didn't know when she left or where she was even going. She would just go. And most of the time, she ended up at the Romani camp in the woods.
Mm-hmm. With the milky eye.
Yep. the milky eye, the bowls of milk. So she spent a lot of time with them in a span of just a few months. So she became an unofficial part of their community. So she was learning things from them, asking them questions just about how they do stuff.
So
like
she was just vibing with the gypsies.
She was vibing with the gypsies, yep. So she did, on the other hand, become obsessed with trying to find a way to break or reverse the curse, which is finding a specific way. So she read countless books.
Yeah, it's fix yourself.
Yeah, self-care, guys. But there's more into it than just that. But anyway, read countless books. She looked into astrology, literally tried everything, but couldn't find anything to escape her fate. So now, there's a wheat harvest in July in the community. It's a huge community event. No matter who you are, rich, poor, whatever, everyone literally went out as a community and just harvested the crops together in the fields. Even after sunset, there'd be bonfires, food, music, dancing. This is like a week-long festival, just with the community. And they would sleep outside even, just under the stars. Like, they're partying, they're getting tired, they're like, all right, let's just camp right here.
It's like the hippies.
So, this was July 23rd, 1930. An earthquake happened while the festival was going on.
Oh no.
It was a magnitude of 6.6. So that's a pretty destructive earthquake, and it devastated the entire town.
Wow. Oh my God.
Now, the fact that most of the town was at the festival in the fields saved most of their lives. So, the downfall, the town, including her and her family, were just watching the town crumble.
Oh my
And their homes just got
God.
destroyed, yeah. And whoever possibly was left in the town, since they didn't go to the festival, probably got killed. So, now, she obviously has that curse still running in her mind, And she was eventually getting comfortable with the Romani people, but it's like feeding into her obsession, per se.
Yeah.
It's instigating it. So amongst all her other traumas, now she just lost her house.
Oh my god.
She didn't lose anybody, but she lost her house. So that at least kind of eased her mind, but at the same time, it's just getting rebalanced out by the paranoia. And now we're at part 2.
Oh, you bitch.
So, what you think?
Wow. That is so much. Just awful.
Like, that made me think, like...
Even before she was even born, it was just awful.
Literally. And just imagine, too, because as her mom's pregnant, getting beat up, getting abused, and constantly having anxiety, that's fed into her child.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind
She
of
was
like...
born with trauma.
Yeah.
She was born with her mother's
It's like a
carrying
lot
on
of
trauma.
It's like a lot of dogs that I've had to work with also too. Like if they're probably anxious and stressed out and they're like, all we know is that they were a stray and the mom was pregnant, she was a stray. It's probably the mom's stress then that literally was carried into your puppy.
Yeah, that is a thing.
It's just the same too with humans, because
Yeah.
I've heard before, like, don't stress the baby, like, don't get stressed, it's for the baby, like Stewie, it's for the baby, it's for the baby. We love Family Guy.
Yeah, you'll hear a lot about that. Bob's Burgers from me, maybe. And Golden Girls.
Golden
Anyway,
Girls!
Yeah, no, it was good. I'm excited to hear the rest of it. I don't think I've ever heard. No, I haven't heard of her. Now that I don't know about this
Well, now
one.
you've heard of half of it.
Oh my gosh. That was good. I liked it. I liked that boulder. That was a nice boulder.
Well, good.
I hope you guys enjoyed it too.
Yeah,
Thanks
hopefully.
for cruising with us. And if you want to continue, let's go to Let's Cruising.
Yeah.
Ray.
With Jel and Ray.
Can't even get it right.
It was a lot to take in, so.
Let's go cruising with Jel and Ray. Sorry, this is our first episode, so don't judge us too hard. Hopefully we will get
Yeah, we're trying. We're trying.
We
So.
just want to go cruising, have fun, and just talk about shit.
Exactly. We just shit talk, but at the same time, we talk about good shit. So,
So, can't wait for next week.
honestly, yeah. So,
Well, thanks for the cruise.
of course. Okay, thanks, guys.
Out of here.